When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world you fear what he might have to say. The globalist establishment should heed these words, because they are also what everyone instinctively understands. Telling people to shut up, or smearing them, or even putting them in jail does not mean their words are suddenly not true. In fact, most often they send the direct opposite message, because if people are wrong or genuinely lying, it should be easy to prove. The ruling class must know that in the age of the internet, people can just find the truth elsewhere. This is why they hate free speech. Never forget the Streisand effect. That is, a phenomenon whereby an attempt to hide, remove or censor a piece of information has the unintended consequence of publicising the information more widely, usually facilitated by the internet. It is an example of psychological reactance, wherein once people are aware that some information is being kept from them, their motivation to access and spread it is increased. Despite this, big tech censorship is something those of us who are not part of the globalist left-wing establishment have come to know all too well. If you stand up to the rulers, you can expect slander, attacks and suppression. Every major tech company engages in some sort of censorship and is constantly under pressure to censor even more than they already are. It's part and parcel of living in the current year. Yet, until recently, one company was genuinely resisting the calls to silence dissent. It cared more about profit than ideology. That company was Amazon, one of the largest corporations in the world. In a great travesty of morality, common sense and decency, they have now banned a number of authors for daring to speak out against the establishment. This is truly alarming and is reminiscent of Weimar Germany, or any tyranny for that matter, where the establishment suppressed and censored certain views. We all know where that ended up. From American Renaissance, and I quote, Amazon has long prided itself on a broad policy of not censoring books, until now. In the last several days, it has banned print and Kindle editions of 4 books, either written or edited by race relations expert Jared Taylor. On February 24, Amazon banned his book White Identity, a scholarly analysis that argues whites are beginning to practice identity politics in response to forceful racial demands by blacks, Hispanics, and Asians. White Identity had 134 customer reviews and an average rating of 4.5 stars. Amazon had sold the book since 2011. Yesterday, Amazon banned Jared Taylor's collection of essays, If We Do Nothing, and 2 collections he edited, A Race Against Time and Face to Face with Race. In all cases, Amazon claimed that the book's subject matter was in violation of content guidelines, but did not explain why. There is no appeals process. On the same day it banned White Identity, Amazon also banned The White Nationalist Manifesto by Greg Johnson. As recently as 2010, Amazon had an unambiguous free speech policy. Amazon believes it is censorship not to sell certain books simply because we or others believe their message is objectionable. Now, Amazon is deciding which political views are acceptable and which are not. End quote. Other pro-white titles now burned by Amazon include The Turner Diaries, Taking Our Own Side, Western Civilization Bites Back, Truth, Justice, and A Nice White Country, and many more. These books and essays are about nothing more than fighting for the existence of white people. Amazon have effectively just said whites are not allowed to advocate for whites or exist. They are now an explicitly anti-white corporation dedicated to stamping out issues of white well-being. If they did this to any other race, there rightly would be an uproar. But because they are suppressing white voices, we barely hear a peep from the anti-white media. The establishment's strategy is to demonise and belittle white people, especially white men. This is key to their continued dominance. If white men were ever to fully wake up to what is happening to our people, they may not like it. As they say, white men are nice until we are not. The problem for the establishment is this kind of censorship only wakes people up to their anti-white agenda. It's not just pro-white advocates copping the brunt of this latest escalation of speech suppression either. Barely a week later, Amazon also banned Tommy Robinson's book, Muhammad's Quran. From PJ Media, and I quote, Amazon has just dropped the book Muhammad's Quran by the renowned British activist Tommy Robinson and Peter McLaughlin, and apparently only because it censors dislike Robinson. In the last 2 weeks, Robinson spectacularly embarrassed the BBC by exposing the bias and dishonesty of its reporter John Sweeney. The retaliation has been swift and severe. Robinson has been banned from YouTube and Facebook, and now his book has been withdrawn from sale. Muhammad's Quran is critical of Islam's holy book. It endeavours to illustrate how violent jihadists justify their actions by referring to Islamic texts and teachings. That's all. Robinson and McLaughlin call for no violence. Their book is accurate. End quote. The thing about this ban is it appears to have less to do with the subject matter than Tommy Robinson himself, as they state. Amazon still sells Islam critic Robert Spencer's books despite MasterCard deciding he was unfit for personhood. Tommy Robinson is a man the British establishment have had enough with. The working class are right behind him, and this is a direct threat to the establishment. It would not be surprising at all if they had leaned on Amazon to censor his books. That said, whilst the topic of Tommy Robinson's oppression at the hands of the British state is important, it's not the point of this video. So wait, there's still more. Removing books declaring it's okay to be white and those authored by Tommy Robinson may be the first notable instance of Amazon's political book burning, but they are not the first bonfires by any means. In September 2018, writer and pickup artist Roosh V was placed on the pyre from his blog, and I quote, Starting on Friday, September 7, Amazon has gone on a rampage and banned the paperback and Kindle editions of 9 of my books, including my new release game. The sales pages now give you an error message. Despite repeatedly trying to get answers from Amazon via phone and email, they will not tell me why the books have been removed. I believe the bannings began because the launch of Game was extremely successful. I sold 2,000 books in the first 2 days and hit the top 700 on Amazon paperback on the first day. Even before Friday's launch, Game was already in Amazon's top 10,000. As far as I know, Amazon didn't receive a single complaint about the content, but they removed it anyway. End quote. Roosh then goes on to list some of the books still available on Amazon for sale, with some of the crudest and most vulgar topics you can think of. Some even with covers that I probably can't show here. This appears to be about preventing men from bettering themselves and learning how to meet and attract women. If so, it is genuinely vindictive and a cruel move on their behalf. It is the worst kind of bullying. Amazon are playing a very dangerous and silly game. Censorship is never benevolent, and in the days of the internet, it is unlikely to be effective. People are still going to want interesting and edgy content. Men are still going to want to learn how to meet and attract women. White people are going to continue to wake up to the crimes against us, and while he stands for the white working class, Tommy Robinson will always be a hero. Censorship does not change people's minds, and if they are speaking out against the establishment, it only proves those speaking right. It also proves the establishment are afraid of what certain people have to say. This push for censorship does not bode well for the near future of our civilization, and while in the long term God and the truth will win out, the short-term costs are yet to be decided. Historically, it took brave men fighting and dying to protect our rights, and if history repeats itself, the cost this time could be astronomical. Amazon are the last of the big tech companies to succumb to pressure to censor views critical of the globalist ruling class. They could have been great, but they sold out. Right now, there is no real competition in Amazon space, but book burning creates a brand new market for entrepreneurs to target. It also means society further divides, continuing the trend towards polarization and separation of left and right, which may ultimately be the only alternative to outright physical conflict. Despite all potential futures, there remains one ultimate truth. Censorship of opinions and voices is a mean, nasty, and oppressive thing to do. It is genuinely and objectively immoral, and a theft of creators' time and effort. Roosh spent a large amount of time writing his book under the assumption that Amazon would sell his book. He had no reason to believe otherwise. They stole that time for him. The same is true for Jared Taylor and Tommy Robinson. Amazon offered their services, then removed their offer arbitrarily. Terms and conditions be damned. They broke an implied contract, and the law should punish them for this. Tech companies need to decide whether they are publishers or platforms, and if they are going to make editorial decisions on what to allow, then they are declaring themselves publishers. Removing even one account or book for anything other than breaking the law is a declaration that they are editorializing content and they are thus publishers. That means they must be liable for anything they allow on their websites. Alternatively, they can declare themselves platforms and leave moderation to the law, as they should have in the first place. Right now, they are trying to take the best of both worlds and dictate what can and can't be said in the public discourse. That is not their right. The "it's a private company, they can do what they want" argument is thoroughly debunked. They are public companies working with governments, offering a public square for public discussion. Legal limitations notwithstanding, nobody has the right to dictate public discourse other than the individual who decides for himself what they wish to read, watch, or listen to. It's well and truly time to force tech companies to respect users' property rights, and when this happens, the nationalist movement will be unstoppable. I hope you enjoyed the video. Share the truth around, and I'll see ya when I see ya.